Tennis experts built careers spotting cracks in rising stars. And for years Alex Eala's serve sat at the top of every scouting report. Exhibit A. The shot that invited returns. The one that handed opponents free looks. The single flaw that kept a genuinely elite baseline game from becoming complete. Now that same shot is the reason the tour can't stop talking about her. What actually changed? And why did the hard courts that first launched her become the place the transformation finally showed up in full color? This is not a story about a serve getting a few miles an hour faster. It is the story of how a player takes the one weakness the entire sport can see, works on it in plain sight, and turns it into the next chapter of a career already making history. Long before grass court nights at Wimbledon put her name in global headlines, hard courts were already writing the most important pages of Alex Eala's professional life. Go back to August 2025 at Flushing Meadows. In the first round of the US Open, she trailed Clara Tauson of Denmark 5-1 in the deciding set and produced a comeback that still feels improbable on paper. She became the first player representing the Philippines to win a Grand Slam main draw singles match in the Open era. That was not a soft draw or a lucky bounce. That was hardcourt tennis at its most demanding. Long rallies, heavy pace, relentless baseline exchanges. And Eala proved she could win that fight against a ranked, in-form opponent on the biggest stage the sport owns. Earlier that same year, the hard courts had already delivered another signature statement. At the Miami Open, she reached the semi-finals, a run that included a genuine upset of Iga Świątek, then ranked world number 2. Tennis insiders sat up. This was no longer just a promising junior. This was a player who could take down the very best on one of the most competitive surfaces in the game. By the time casual fans discovered her through the drama of Wimbledon, long-time observers already knew something the wider world was only beginning to understand. Hard courts were in many ways her original home. The aggressive baseline game, the ability to strike the ball ferociously off both wings, the competitive fire in the middle of long exchanges, all of it mapped cleanly onto the demands of hard-court tennis. Yet every scouting report, no matter how glowing, eventually arrived at the same caveat: the serve. It was never a minor footnote. It was widely regarded as her single biggest liability. Reports throughout the previous season noted first serves routinely sitting below 90 miles per hour, an invitation, at the elite level, for opponents to step in and attack. Analysis did not soften the language. When she lost, the trail usually led back to service games that could not hold as reliably as her opponents. That gap between an elite baseline game and an exploitable serve became the defining storyline of her early career. The single question hanging over every prediction about how far she could climb. For a player with this much obvious talent, the conversation became impossible to avoid. It was not hidden. It was not a subtle technical issue only coaches could spot on slow-motion replay. It sat in the open every match. Analysts were blunt. One detailed breakdown put it plainly: her greatest weakness was her serve, full stop. Despite visible progress everywhere else, that shortcoming remained stubbornly consistent. The kind of flaw that follows a player from tournament to tournament and surface to surface. The mechanics were straightforward. A serve that regularly sits under 90 miles per hour does not just fail to buy free points. It actively creates trouble, giving returners an easy look and letting them dictate the first shot of the rally. On the WTA Tour, where so many top players can finish points behind a big first serve, that gap was a structural disadvantage. The tennis equivalent of fighting with one hand lowered. Matches throughout 2025 often followed the same script, Eala causing real problems on return, making sets competitive through grit and shot-making, while her own service games remained the most vulnerable part of every set. The implication in nearly every piece of analysis stayed the same. Fix the serve and the ceiling rises dramatically. Leave it unfixed and she risks becoming the player who causes upsets but never quite locks in sustained top-tier consistency. Someone whose matches are always competitive, but whose results depend too heavily on everything else compensating for one clear hole. That was the accepted narrative heading into 2026. A gifted, dangerous, but fundamentally incomplete player with one well-documented flaw standing between her and the next level. Which is exactly why what began happening just weeks into the new season caught so many by surprise. It did not take a full season for the story to start shifting. It took barely a month. By early February 2026, analysts were already noting tangible improvement in the exact area that had been flagged as her biggest liability. One detailed breakdown described it directly. Arguably, her biggest flaw had shown marked improvement just 1 month into the new season, with clear signs it should only continue to get better. Rapid, visible progress on a technical weakness as deeply ingrained as serve mechanics does not happen by accident. It reflects deliberate, focused work, the kind of targeted training that reshapes a specific motion rather than hoping raw talent will paper over a structural gap forever. The results on court backed the observation. Her 2026 season began writing a different narrative. She reached the round of 16 at Indian Wells, one of the deepest and most competitive fields in the sport, before falling to Nosková. Along the way, she produced a performance that reframed the conversation. A genuinely competitive quarter-final battle against world number 4 Coco Gauff. That match mattered far beyond the scoreline. It was not framed as another feel-good underdog story. It was described as proof that her tennis simply belonged at this level. A marker that the talk had shifted from promising talent to genuine competitor. The clay court swing added further evidence. At the Linz Open, she opened with a convincing win over Austria's Julia Grabher before running into former French Open champion Jelena Ostapenko in a tightly contested match. Another reminder that she was increasingly comfortable sharing the court with Grand Slam champions rather than being overwhelmed by them. Piece by piece, tournament by tournament, the old storyline, dangerous baseline game, exploitable serve, results that depended on compensating for a structural weakness, was being quietly rewritten. Not through one miracle week, but through the same patient, incremental process that had carried her forward from the beginning. Even with that visible progress, not every expert was ready to call the transformation finished. The real tension in the story lives right there. Greg Rusedski, the former US Open finalist turned respected analyst, had been watching closely. Speaking on his podcast Off Court after her Wimbledon run ended against Jasmine Paolini, he did not hold back on where he still saw room to grow. No question she can add more power, he said, but also she had some strapping on the elbow, so that was a little disconcerting. That detail is worth sitting with. Even amid a career-best Grand Slam performance, there were visible physical signs. Tape on the elbow, the small but telling marker of a serve motion still under active development and still placing real strain on the body as it evolves. Rusedski went further, describing the serve in blunt terms as distinctively weak even while praising nearly everything else. Her return, her ground strokes, her refusal to make excuses. He compared her competitive spirit directly to Rafael Nadal's. His prescription was specific. He pointed to Novak Djokovic's early career, noting that in the Serbian's early 20s the serve was not yet the dominant weapon it would later become. The implication was clear. Transformation of this kind is possible, but it takes time, and Eala was not fully there yet. She has the knowledge of how to mix it, Rusedski said, but she needs a little more accuracy and power, and that will come in time. Knowledge already present. Execution still catching up. That is a very different diagnosis from simply calling a shot broken. It is the assessment of someone who sees the mechanical understanding already in place, waiting for the physical tools and repetition to match it. Interestingly, Rusedski's read on surface added another layer. Despite everything Hardcourts had already delivered, the US Open history, the Miami semifinal, he suggested grass might actually be her best surface going forward because her existing game translated so cleanly to it even without a fully weaponized serve. That is the honest, complicated picture underneath the transformation headline. Real, measurable progress sitting alongside real ongoing work still left to do. Not a finished product. A player actively in the middle of becoming one. So if the serve remains a work in progress, why does the Hardcourt chapter matter so much right now? Because Hardcourts are exactly where all of this began, and exactly where the next Real test is unfolding. Eala's return to the United States for a dedicated Hardcourt training block was never just routine scheduling. It was a deliberate return to the surface that first proved she could compete with the sport's elite. now carrying a service motion that has demonstrably evolved since the days of consistently sitting below 90 miles per hour. The same surface that delivered her maiden Grand Slam main draw win and her Miami breakthrough is now the proving ground for whether those serve improvements can translate into results against fully loaded fields. Her entry into the Mubadala Citi DC Open as a seeded player already says something. Seeding is not handed out on reputation or storyline. It reflects a ranking built from accumulated results across the season, hardcourts included. Her own description of this stretch of the calendar reinforces the mindset that has carried her this far. "It's a continuous process, my journey in professional tennis," she said of her approach heading into the swing. The same grounded, step-by-step philosophy that has quietly underpinned every phase of her improvement. There is a pattern worth recognizing, one that even Rusedski's analysis supports. He acknowledged that Eala had enjoyed most of her success on hard court throughout her career to date. That is not a small detail. It is the foundation this entire transformation story is built on. This was never a player discovering hard courts for the first time and hoping for a lucky breakthrough. This is a player returning to the exact surface where her game has always translated most naturally, now carrying a materially improved serve into familiar territory. Layer in the broader context of her 2026 season, the Indian Wells run, the competitive battle with Gauff, the visible serve gains analysts flagged just weeks into the year, and the picture becomes clear. This hardcourt swing is not a new experiment. It is the natural next data point in a pattern that has been building consistently since Miami and Flushing Meadows first put her on the map. If the serve continues developing at the pace already documented, hardcourts are precisely where that improvement should show up most clearly, because this was always the surface built for her game, missing only the one piece experts kept pointing to. So here is the question worth sitting with as she steps back onto the hard courts that first made her a name worth knowing. Has Alex Eala actually solved the one flaw that followed her entire career? Or is this simply the next chapter in a longer, more patient transformation still waiting for its real conclusion at Flushing Meadows? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you want to follow exactly how this hardcourt story unfolds match by match all the way to the US Open, make sure you are subscribed to Tennis Diaries. We will be tracking every serve, every stat, and every step of the transformation. The next chapter is already being written on the surface that started it all.